The Reds Hall of Fame announced their modern player finalists. 8 names for the Reds Hall of Fame. Those names: Homer Bailey, Francisco Cordero, Zach Cozart, Aaron Harang, Mike Leake, Brandon Phillips, Scott Rowland, and Edinson Volquez. Fan voting makes up a third of the ballot and is live now through November 27th. Make sure you visit redsmuseum.org to place your votes. Nick, who's getting your vote?
2 players I think are probably should for sure be in out of that group, and that's Brandon Phillips, obviously, and I think Aaron Harang. I think Aaron Harang is one of the most underrated pitchers. Don't look at his ERA. ERA is a bad stat for Aaron Harang because he pitched a large portion of his career in the steroid era, and gets a big bonus for that. I think he's in the top 20 all time in wins above replacement according to Fangraphs. But had a terrific career with the Reds and should be in. Honestly, Craig, all 8 of those guys had pretty good careers with the Reds. I'm not going to say who because the last time I did, one of their family members came after me. But there's 2 players that have been added to the Reds Hall of Fame in the last, 15, 20 years that all 8 of those guys are better than. So Reds Hall of Fame is a weird thing where it's a popularity vote. But Mike Leake, I think, Craig, had a very underrated Reds career. I was looking at some of his numbers. Very sneaky career. Scott Rowland obviously was a big part of the 2010 team and put up monster numbers in 2010 and 2011. I don't think that's enough to get him in the Reds Hall of Fame, but had a great 2-year run. Zach Cozart is close based on there's no real line in the sand of the Reds Hall of Fame, but he's probably close. Bailey, I would love to get. I think Bailey was underrated. He just didn't put up the overall numbers, but obviously the accomplishments of 2 no-hitters and pitched, I think, the greatest pitching performance ever by a Red in a playoff game, that game 3 in 2012. And then Edinson Volquez, one of my all-time favorite Reds. I loved Edinson Volquez. Obviously, you can't put him in the Hall of Fame, but man, that one run he had when he was an all-star, he was incredible, and I think a lot of people forget that.
It's fun getting to this age, Nick, where we know every player on this list, and you're probably different than I am because you're a little bit wired differently, I guess is the nice way to put it. But there was a period of time, especially when I was younger, where I didn't know the Reds history, right? So I didn't know a lot of the players that were in these conversations, or didn't get to watch a lot of them, but I specifically remember watching all 8 of these guys, and for someone our age, thinking about our kind of childhood and our memories of this team, these are guys that absolutely stood out. And there's zero doubt in my mind that dude will be in. I think that's a surefire 100%. Brandon Phillips is a Reds Hall of Famer and will be in 2026. The question from there is who else, if anybody. I appreciate the Aaron Harang thought process. I think Homer Bailey and his no-hitters and his performance in the playoffs, like you mentioned, probably moves him ahead of Aaron Harang in the eyes of the voters, of the fan vote, because I think a lot of fans are going to remember the Homer Bailey performances more than the overall body of work for Bailey or for Harang. And so I think Bailey's those 3 starts alone will probably earn him significant fan vote. Now, whether or not the other pieces of the voting go Homer Bailey's way or not, I don't know. But I do think, as you mentioned, there's a case to be had for all 8 of these, one way or another, to be a member. But I think realistically, those are probably my top 3. Is that dude, and then Aaron Harang and Homer Bailey. So interested to see how that voting goes and who the next class is in the 2026 Hall of Fame.
Yeah, two get elected in. I don't know if we mentioned that. So the top 2 vote getters will get in. I don't know if there's some sort of if there's a panel or something that gets extra votes or something, or if it's a completely fan vote. I don't know.
No, it's a third fan vote, a third media members, and a third alumni, like Reds alumni.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
there's a whole
Bailey's
criteria. If you played 3 years for the team, you get a vote if you want it. Like it's not one of those things where like you have to vote, but it's open to guys to vote. So
Bailey's interesting. I think there will be some that will give a lot of stock for that. There's also a lot of people that just hated Homer Bailey too. So I'm not sure really that's that. And I forgot to mention Francisco Cordero. I mean,
Coco.
he had a great run. I know like at the end he was wild and it was kind of one of those closers that you always kind of held your breath. But my gosh, I mean, he was really, really good from 2008 to 2011. The closer for obviously a lot of our favorite teams in our Reds lifetime. That 2010 team had a really, really good run. And I think, Craig, I'll say this. I think Cordero, Cozart, Harang, Phillips, I think all four of those in a lot of other classes would have easily got in. And I think the two of those that don't get in are honestly kind of just had a crappy year to kind of get thrown in. I don't know if they get back on or not. But again, I always annually plea Reggie Sanders. It's an absolute joke, Reds Hall of Fame, that he's not in there. It's a joke. It's a joke. One of the Reds' best players had one of the Reds' best seasons of all time in 1995. One of your best outfielders of all time. Didn't even get a sniff at this. And there are some players that you put their numbers up next to Reggie Sanders that are in the Hall of Fame, and it's a bad look.
I think outside of the one thing I'll say about the class and maybe you feel differently is outside of Brandon Phillips and probably Aaron Harang, I think the peaks are really high on a lot of these guys. I don't know that the longevity is there for a lot of these guys, but again, you're talking about a specific team's Hall of Fame. It's not super common for guys to be playing their entire careers in one place, and so that's certainly part of the formula there too. Is okay, well, you mentioned Mike Leake and some of these guys who had pretty good careers with the Reds, but maybe it wasn't as long as maybe some fans would like it to be, but it is what it is, especially when you're talking about a mid-market team. Again, fan voting live now through November 27th at redsmuseum.org. You can vote there for your Hall of Fame class of 2026.